In this terrible, no good, awful season for the Orlando Magic, at least they've learned one thing. Paolo and Franz are superstars today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is March 6th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Ike. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, I'm the positive person. I am the source of positivity. We're going to talk about the most important thing the Magic have learned this season and why it's going to make everything okay. Paolo and Franz Wagner's all-star seasons. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage, delivered to your inbox Monday through Friday. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers will get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. We're going to do plenty of season review. We're going to have 2 extra weeks probably to do season review this year. And I don't need to tell you, you don't need, I know I am a positive person. We're going to talk about something positive here because I'm an optimist at the end of the day. I'm not going to overreact to like some things that have happened that are out of the Magic's control. I honestly still believe if the Magic had been healthy throughout the course of the season, they would be in the fight for the 4, 5, and 6 seed. They'd be in the race with Detroit, with Milwaukee, with Indiana. So I don't think the Magic are as far off as they seem. But I'm also not going to sit here and sugarcoat things. The Magic are as bad as their record is right now. They are in a really bad spot and in a really bad way. And with each successive loss, especially to bad opponents that are not trying to win, Toronto Raptors, with each bad loss, things look bleaker. Because at the end of the day, you are the sum of all your parts. And the Magic have deficiencies that are so much greater than I think anybody could have imagined at the beginning of the season. Certainly, again, we will talk plenty about what Jeff Weltman needs to do, how to evaluate Jamal Mosley. We're going to get to all that after the season because the focus for me right now is individual games, what's coming up next, and how the Magic get better and get back to where all of us feel like they belong. Your frustration is, again, completely warranted. The team is feeling it. I'm feeling it. Everybody's feeling it. But like I said, I am an optimist. And I know optimism doesn't sell in this day and age, but I am an optimist because there is only one thing that really mattered this year. At the end of the day, the only thing I really cared about seeing, or I think the ultimate experiment the Magic wanted to run and check out this year, they have been able to run and check out and have been able to find it successfully. At the end of the day, this season has been about stretching Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner to their limits. It is about seeing exactly how far they can take them, how diverse, how expanded their roles could be before the team kind of broke. If that makes sense. Maybe I need to explain that. They needed to see if Paolo and Franz could be the point guards, could be the lead ball handlers. They needed to see just how much responsibility they could take on to be the best players they could be. They needed to know, yes, they gave Franz the max extension already, but they needed to know exactly how good Franz Wagner could be. And in that sense, the entry to Paolo Banchero actually turned into a blessing because it pushed Franz to expand his game, to be even better. And while there is a lot of talk in the national media and even among Magic fans about who is actually better between the two, the thing we're going to learn over this last quarter of the season, honestly, is how much these two can play together and play off of each other. Because, frankly, that's all the Magic have right now. If there's going to be one takeaway we get from this season, it's the most important thing the Magic could learn. Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are superstar players. The Magic have not just one, but two all-star, two all-NBA level players. And if that's all we learn this year, if that's the only takeaway we get from this season, I can't quite call it a complete failure. Now, again, I want to repeat this. I've said this throughout the year. Missing the playoffs is a failure. There's no excuse for missing the playoffs, especially with how bad this Eastern Conference is this year, including how bad the Magic have been. I expect Orlando to rally and make a playoff spot. Honestly, I still expect them to win the division. I still expect them to be 7th. They are falling well short of that expectation, and that is unacceptable. The Magic need change. The Magic need to add real, more consistent players to their roster. They need to get their swagger and confidence back. But there's one thing we have seen since the All-Star break, and that's Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are going to do the job to get them there. In the 7 games since the All-Star break, and again, Orlando's 2-5 in those 7 games, and the 7 games since the All-Star break, Paolo Banchero has started to look like himself again. He's averaging 29.6 points per game. He's the only player in the league, at least entering Wednesday's games, to have had 2 40-point games since the All-Star break. He's shooting 47.8% from the floor, 34.9% from 3 on 6.1 attempts per game. So a little bit of volume in there too. He's even now back up to 77.5% from the foul line. Then you throw in his 6.3 rebounds per game and 4.9 assists per game. Turnovers are a little high. Not going to deny that. But he's also added 1.7 stocks per game. Paolo's leading the league since the All-Star break in free throw attempts per game at 11.4. He is forcing his way to the basket. He is taking all the shots. He's not going to let this team lose. Neither is Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner is averaging 24.6 points per game, a little bit below his average around 25 this season. Shooting 48.6% from the floor on 20.3 field goal attempts. That's right, the Magic's 2 top players are averaging 39.7 field goal attempts per game. He's shooting only 25.7% from 3. I think there's a lot to say about how his shots developed. It's not where it needs to be, and I think we can all see he's working on changing his form a little bit. I see the vision for it. It's just not effective yet in games. I don't know why he did mid-season. He's shooting 78.1% from the line, which is well below his average. But Franz Wagner has been equally as strong and equally as good. The Magic for the season are going to have their first pair of 20-point scorers since Shaq and Penny. Paolo Banchero said after Tuesday's game that it took him about a month or 2 to get back into form after the oblique injury, but he is starting to feel more and more like himself. And those numbers since the All-Star break, 7 games is small, but not that small. Those numbers suggest he is getting there. The one thing that cannot happen, the one thing nobody should do, is blame Paolo and Franz for this team not winning. Because they are doing everything in their power to help this team win. Paolo Banchero nearly single-handedly led double-digit comebacks with 3-4 minutes left in the game on 2 consecutive nights by himself. He scored 18 of his 22 fourth-quarter points on Tuesday in the final 7.5 minutes. It's time for some Paolo Banchero redemption. We know how good Franz Wagner is. He's been consistent all year. Both of these guys are really good, and the Magic are at the point of the season where they're just like, these are our only 2 guys. They need to play off each other. They need to just make things happen. And guess what? They are. The Magic haven't had 2 all-stars of this caliber again, frankly, since Shaq and Penny. I know Steve Francis and Dwight Howard played together. Dwight wasn't an all-star yet. Steve Francis was Steve Francis. The Magic haven't had top-end talent like this in a very long time. I know Dwight Howard was here, but Dwight Howard didn't have another all-star running mate. And this is the big point. You can mess around and move around the role players. The Magic are going to do that this summer, in all likelihood. Your stars are your key. They set the culture. They set everything in motion. And right now, Paolo and Franz are doing everything they can. Can you guess who the third leading scorer on the Magic is since the All-Star break? Can you guess? It's Cole Anthony at 10.5 points per game, shooting 38.6% from three, although 53.3% from, or 38.6% from the field, although 53.3% from three. We'll take it. And Wendell Carter is next after him at 9.1 points per game. The Magic right now have no help for their two main stars. And so again, if there's one thing that we needed to see in this season, is Paolo and Franz develop into star players. For the Magic to figure out what they need around them. And yeah, they haven't been able to fully run all the experiments and all the things they wanted to do this year. But Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner have stepped up to the plate. They have put themselves in this conversation of true superstardom. They are superstars. And we'll see how the Magic help them out. Again, I want to make this clear. I don't believe in tanking. I never have. I don't believe it's a viable strategy for a positive culture. The Magic need to make the playoffs. Whatever happens this season isn't on Paolo and Franz. They've done everything they can. So what is one thing the Magic can fix to get themselves back on track? I've got just the fix. We'll talk about the fouling problem coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is sponsored by our friends over at BetterHelp. Who is in your support system? We all need people to lean on, whether it's friends, family, mentors, or professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help makes them better. I literally just spent the first segment begging someone to help Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Therapy may not help you on the basketball court, but it is one of the best ways to build a strong support system. It's not just for tough times. It helps with setting boundaries, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. Therapy has everyday benefits. It's not just about crisis moments. It's a tool for self-improvement, stress management, and navigating life's challenges. BetterHelp is fully online, making it easier than ever to connect with a licensed therapist from anywhere. With more than 30,000 professionals available, you can find the right fit and switch anytime at no cost. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid. I waited a segment to rip off the Band-Aid. The NBA's last 2-minute report is useless. I understand the NBA's desire to have transparency, to say a mea culpa when they get something wrong or something blatantly wrong. I appreciate the effort. We've had this thing forever, and all it does is make everybody angry. We know the refs get graded, and we know that the officials get graded, but oh boy, I sure hope that game doesn't bite the Magic in the butt. I sure hope that the Magic don't need that extra game to get where they want to go at the end of the season. Because even the NBA admitted that the officials in that game Tuesday botched the end of the game. On Jacoby Walter's game-winning three, the NBA said in their last 2-minute report that Orlando Robinson should have been called for a moving screen when he took Kentavious Caldwell-Pope out of the play. Not just that. So that set up Jacoby Walter's three. Tristan Da Silva recovered, played great defense, recognized its switch, all good. Not all good, but all good. On top of that, on the lob attempt to Wendell Carter with half a second left, a play that the Magic said they practiced, the NBA again said that Orlando Robinson should have been called for a foul for reaching out and grabbing Wendell Carter's shoulder as he tried to jump, preventing him from getting a chance to touch that basketball. Again, ball hit the rim. Would have been tough for him to gather, but still. But the Magic clinging to victory clinging to the lead, needing to make a play, the officials got it wrong. And usually Jamal Mosley's pretty composed. He's pretty, he says tongue in cheek all the time. Whenever anyone asks him about the officiating, do you want me to get in trouble? He wanted to get in trouble on Tuesday night. He wanted to make it clear that he thought the officiating was bad, that the Raptors were allowed to be physical in a way the Magic weren't. There's no fine. He didn't get fined. But it was clear that he was upset. And he's been upset with the officiating for a little while now. It has not been good coming out of the All-Star break. The Hawks game was terrible. Both Raptors games were terrible. The Warriors game was terrible. A lot of moving screens, according to Jamal Mosley after that game. During that game that, again, Steph Curry doesn't need much space. Made the shots. You're not going to take anything away from them. But this is a problem. And so I'm not saying it's a problem of the officials. It's limited sample. Refs get things wrong. They're human. They're still the best referees in the world, which maybe isn't saying much. They're still, go watch a college game. They're terrible. Go watch a WNBA game. Love the W. Their officiating is garbage. I'm still angry about Game 5. Go Lynx. The Magic, though, are a tough team to officiate. And honestly, their biggest problem this year, or one of the biggest problems this year defensively, one of the ways that this year's defense is different from last year's defense, in a worse way, is their fouling. The Magic are fine playing physical games. They're fine, frankly, giving up a lot of fouls. The Magic very much subscribe to the theory of officials can't call everything. Let's just be physical and force the officials to tell us where the line is, and then we'll walk right up to it still. Orlando is a physical team. They want to get to the line. Paolo Banchero, like I mentioned earlier, is a free throw merchant. Orlando could not get to the foul line even if they tried for 10 years after Dwight Howard left. Paolo Banchero arrives, and they're one of the top teams at getting to the foul line in the entire league. This year, they are second in the league in free throw rate, which is free throw attempts over field goal attempts, at around 27%, 27.8, 27.6%, something like that. However, the Magic are last in the league at free throw attempt allowed at 29%. Almost 3 free throws for every 10 field goal attempts. This undercuts them. Even last year, when the Magic were a better three-point shooting team, Orlando uses their foul disparity to make up the three-point gap. And one of the things that has happened this year is not only the Magic shooting worse from three, so that three-point gap is wider, the Magic are fouling a lot more, putting teams on the foul line a lot more, and that is obviously hurting them. It's hurting their chances to win. It's hurting their chances to make up that deficit. Orlando fouls a lot. Some of it is by design. Last year, they were 24th in the league in free throw rate, but they still got to the line more than they gave up. This is as big of an issue as anything the Magic have. On Tuesday night, Orlando gave up 30. How many free throws did they give up? Sorry, let me look that up real fast. On Tuesday, the Magic gave up 30 something free throws. They gave up a lot of free throws. 35 free throws. Orlando only took 23. The Raptors had a 37.5% free throw rate when they took 30 free throws. In Sunday's game, Orlando had 42 in that game, and a 43.8% free throw rate in Tuesday's game. Again, the Raptors nearly got 1 free throw for every 2 field goal attempts. Both games against the Warriors, the Magic sent the Warriors to the line a ton, and that is not a team that goes to the foul line very much. The biggest impediment to the Magic's success is their own fouling. If the Magic can get their fouling back under control, their defense is good enough to give them chances to win, and they will get to the line. With the way Paolo is playing right now, he is getting downhill, getting to the line. We can't complain about passive Paolo anymore. He looks like healthy Paolo again. And this is a big problem. Look, Jalen Suggs, that's not a problem that Jalen Suggs necessarily fixes. He fouls a lot too. But you look at that game Tuesday, there's a lot of late swiping, a lot of late rotations. There are just a lot of plays where the Magic were called for fouls, and they absolutely fouled. Maybe Jamal Mosley even said after Tuesday's game, I don't mind getting called for fouls. I just asked for the same calls our way. He feels the Magic are not getting the respect of the whistle. And again, Orlando still took 23 free throws in the game on Tuesday. He feels they aren't getting the same calls, even as they force their way to the basket the way that they do. Fouling has become a problem. It has been a problem for a while. And really, I think the big thing holding the Magic back defensively is that fouling issue. It disrupts momentum. It clogs the game up, and it gives the other team free points. In the third quarter of both games against Toronto, the Raptors paraded to the line in the third quarter. It was enough to stabilize them. It was enough to discourage the Magic. It was enough to frustrate the Magic. It was enough to take the Magic out of their offensive rhythm. When you foul, you're taking the ball out of the hoop. You're taking the ball out of the hoop. You are having to go up against a set defense. It's not good. This Magic offense in the half court, not good. The more the Magic can get in balance, can get secondary breaks, can get transition, the better. But the Magic had to fight fouls. They've had to fight them all season. And one thing that the Magic are going to have to figure out how they teach their players, how they talk to their players, is to avoid the fouling problem. We know where the Magic are in the standings now. They're 8th in the East, flirting with 9th, falling further behind on 7th, although the Heat lost on Wednesday. So let's do a draft segment. Let's talk about some players, some prospects to keep an eye on. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. We're not allowed to use FanDuel here in Florida because our government is silly, but with FanDuel, you can back your team for a late game rally or pick the player that's going to hit a clutch 3. If it was AJ Lawson, congratulations. That probably hit big for you. You never feel like you missed your chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I have been avoiding draft talk. I was expecting the playoffs. I see a team that is still very, very young, has a lot of rookies who haven't quite developed the way they wanted to, needs kind of more veteran solidity. So with the Magic with 2 picks in this year's draft, I'm not expecting the Magic to use 2 first-round picks. The Magic have their own pick and Denver's pick. I could see them potentially trying to combine those picks to move up in the draft. That would not shock me. I could see the Magic looking to use their pick to move out of the draft and maybe use the Denver pick on a draft and stash guy. There's a few draft and stash guys that I like in the first round. I'm playing catch up on college stuff. So definitely go listen to our friends at Locked On NBA Draft or Locked On NBA Big Board to help you get ready for the NBA draft. We're getting close to college basketball season. We'll probably do some more draft stuff as we get to the NCAA Tournament. Happy Free Throw Awareness Month to all those who celebrate. But let me run through a couple prospects that have caught my eye as I have begun to do my draft coverage. Now, obviously, you know a lot of the names at the top of the draft. Cooper Flagg, runaway #1 pick. He's averaging 22.4 points, 8.7 rebounds, 4.7 assists per game. Kind of a Chet Holmgren, Victor Wembanyama light. He's 6'9", so not as big, but Cooper Flagg's going to be the #1 pick. Whoever gets him is going to be very, very happy. A guy that a lot of Magic fans really like is Rutgers guard Dylan Harper. He's 6'6" point guard, averaging 21.6 points per game, just 4.5 assists per game. A little bit of a rough shooter. But those are, him and then his teammate Ace Bailey are the top guys in this draft. I want to mention those guys. The other guy at the top of the draft that I want to make sure I mention is Illinois guard Kasparas Yakashonis. 6'6" guard. Yakashonis is probably the best shooter in this draft. You're going to see a little bit of a theme here. Now, Yakashonis is shooting only 33.3% from three on 5 attempts per game. But, a lot of stuff off the dribble. He is a really deadly shooter. In conference play, he's shooting 33.7% from three, again, on 5.6 attempts per game. I'm a Northwestern fan. He kicked our butt twice. Northwestern had to go to overtime to beat him the first time. Yakashonis is a guy that I would look out for as well. But look, the Magic are probably going to be drafting in the teens. Currently, they are slated to pick 15th. There's a couple of guys to keep an eye out in that range. A lot of, so before we get to some more players, what are the Magic looking for in the NBA draft? That is a good question. I don't know. I imagine they want role players like Tristan da Silva, someone who can come in, step in, fill a role, contribute immediately. Because again, my big criticism of the Orlando Magic over the last 2 years, everyone's been calling me, telling me that the Anthony Black, Jet Howard draft was a waste. And you're right. You're not wrong on that. The Magic drafted 2 development projects when they needed win-now players. Plain and simple. Every draft is going to be development projects because it's a lot of freshmen these days. But look, Anthony Black, we knew was going to be a project. We knew it would take him a few years, and he's had moments. He's struggling a lot right now. And so I think his fate is very clearly being decided as far as how the Magic can use him. He's not quite the point guard the Magic need. He hasn't quite taken hold of that backup point guard role the way the Magic, I think, envisioned, especially at this time of year. He's had moments, again, I want to give him all that credit. Jet Howard is struggling. He's shown flashes of the playmaking and the size and potential for his defense that I think the Magic really bought into, but he's a shooter who is struggling to shoot. So yes, I'll agree with you. That draft, the 2023 draft, not what the Magic needed with that opportunity with 2 picks in that draft. They went development instead of win now. They didn't get win now players. They picked development players. Those players aren't developing. The Magic needs some win now players. So to me, that means find me some shooting. Get me some shooting. I'm not really looking at point guards. So like Nolan Traore, who's in France, 19.2 points per game, 7.5 assists per game. He might be the kind of point guard that I look at. I'm also looking at Ben Serif. He plays for Ratio Farm Ulm. He's an Israeli guard playing in Germany. Ben Serif is averaging 19 points per game, 6.7 assists per game, 1.6 steals per game. When I've watched tape of Ben Serif, he's got the size the Magic like. He looks like Anthony Black, except with a mid-range jumper. His jumper is just a lot more fluid. He's not a three-point shooter yet, and his defense needs a lot of work from all the scouting reports that I've read. But I see the vision as a taller point guard, has those tools. Maybe you can develop them, maybe you can't. Three-point shot needs to come around, but he's got a solid mid-range jumper. Those are kind of the point guards that I would look at. Those are the 2 point guards I would look at. Jeremiah Fears is also getting some love from fans. He's a 6'4" freshman from Oklahoma. He's averaging 19.3 points per game. Let me pull up his shooting stats here real fast. I don't want to have too many tabs open. He's shooting 27.1% from three, so just not a shooter at all. Getting some steals, 1.6 steals per game. So someone to keep in mind. Again, I where the Magic are drafting at 15 and then Denver's slated to have the 25th pick, not a lot of guys that I like. Like there's just very, very few players, at least that I've watched so far, that I like. Look, Ben Serif is one of them. I've heard good things about Nolan Traore. The other guy that I really like is UConn forward Liam McNeely. He's averaging 17.1 points per game, 7.1 rebounds per game, 6'8" freshman. More importantly, McNeely is a shooter. That's what's probably had him climbing out of the Magic's range. He's shooting 35.5% from three this year. He's shooting 86.1% from line. Again, 5.2 attempts per game. He's had some big games. He's coming off an ankle injury, minor ankle injury, came back. He's shooting 37% in Big East play for UConn. Heavy volume shooters, taking a lot of threes. Again, about 5.5 per game. I really like McNeely. Has the size that I think the Magic like as well. The other player, and he's probably for that second pick a little bit later, is Marquette guard Cam Jones. Cam Jones is a little bit more on the smaller side, but he has all the things the Magic probably need. He's a little bit older too. He's a senior at Marquette. He's gotten better all 4 years. He's averaged more than 15 points per game over his last 3 seasons. He's averaging 18.4 points per game this year, shooting 31.5% from three, but he's doing a lot more off the dribble. He's a career 37% three-point shooter. Only concern, he's a career 68.1 free throw percent shooter. He's only shot better than 70% from the foul line once in his career. So you do wonder if the shooting will translate He's shooting a lot more off the dribble this year. He is the guy for Marquette. We'll see what he can do in the tournament. We'll see how he continues to improve. In Big East play this year, he's shooting 27% from three. So really, really struggling with the extra attention. Again, still averaging 17.3 points per game. So I just worry with him. He's a little bit more volume. He's a late first-round pick. Another guy to keep an eye on is Jason Richardson's son, who plays at Michigan State. As far as centers, a lot of people ask me, why didn't the Magic take Derek Lively in that draft? And I would often say, like, look, yeah, Derek Lively fits a lot of things the Magic need. Or when you're looking at young centers, you want just guys who are just bouncy rim protectors. Bouncy rim protectors find a way to work out in this league because you can throw lobs to them if they're committed and able to teach defense. If they're good shot blockers, those develop. Daniel Gafford found a way. Derek Lively found a way. Bouncy rim protector, like Mo Bamba is not a bouncy rim protector. He doesn't have a quick leap. Bouncy rim protectors find a way to work in this league. Are there any of those in this draft? That's going to be the ultimate question. There are a few centers worth looking at. A lot of Magic fans have Derek Queen on their list, the Maryland center. Derek Queen is averaging, as I pull up his stats here at Maryland, averaging 15.9 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, has a block and 1.1 steals per game. 53.4% field goal shooter, does not shooting threes, just not a three-point shooter, not an outside shooter. So you have that going for him. He's averaging a block in Big Ten play, so that's a good sign. The other guy to watch out for is everybody's favorite school, Michigan center Danny Wolf, 7-foot center from Illinois. Played at Yale before transferring to Michigan. Third year, he's averaging 12.4. This is his first year at Michigan. Averaged 14.1 points, 9.7 rebounds per game, and 1.3 blocks per game at Yale. This year at Michigan, 12.4 points, 9.7 rebounds, 1.4 blocks per game. So he is making progress. Again, can step out and shoot a little bit. He's shooting 33.7% from three on 3 attempts per game. Only a 61.4% free throw shooter. So I wouldn't expect that shooting to translate. Not much of a score, just kind of a big body. He's expected to go late lottery. So he would be in the range about where the Magic are picking. I've done a little bit of draft study. I've listened to some of the Game Theory podcasts. They do a great job on the, as always, Sam Vecini is like the guru of the draft at this point. With Jonathan Givony with Jonathan Givony behind the paywall. The feeling that I've had on this draft, or what I'm reading about this draft, is it is very, very top heavy. Look, Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, Kasper Siakashonis, Kon Knuppel, Cayman Maluach, VJ Edgecombe, they're all Asa Newell. They're all high-level prospects. I think everyone is very, very excited about the top 9, 10, maybe 11 guys in this draft. After that, there's a pretty big drop-off. There's a lot of flaws, and especially for a Magic team that is desperate for shooting, desperate for some athleticism, desperate for guys who can contribute immediately. I'm not sure they're going to find that in this draft. Just from my initial review of this draft class. Again, there's always somebody. So I don't want to just dismiss it completely. There's always somebody worth taking. There's always somebody worth knowing and somebody worth investigating. And I'm not sitting here saying the Magic 100% must trade these picks, that there's no reason to take these picks. As always, my rule on draft night is if there's someone you love, if there's someone you absolutely must have, go get him. Draft picks are valuable, especially in the apron era. Having draft picks, having that cost-controlled contract is super valuable. But they got to go get him. They got to go do it. They got to go do all these things. The Magic are obviously doing better draft prep than I am. Again, I know Jeff Wiltman's under a lot of pressure to get every decision right this summer because a lot of decisions last summer did not go right. Magic did miss a big opportunity to improve their roster in a meaningful way or to be more aggressive when maybe they needed to be. They have to be aggressive now. That includes using their draft pick the right way, whether it's to draft a big player, a contributor, whether it's using that draft pick to get a veteran that will mean something for this team. There are a few players to like. There are a few players to look at. And again, there's still not that much time. We're in the last week of the regular season in college basketball, but I'm not going to lie. I am not so enamored by anyone that I have seen in the draft. Give me some names. I'll take a look at them. I'll get back to you on it. I am not so enamored by anyone I've seen around where the Magic are picking, or at least where mock drafts have the Magic picking, to say this is a place we should stay. I would say right now, if I'm the Magic, I am leaning toward trading this pick. Get me some veterans. Give me some guys who know what they're doing. Supplement this roster. A rookie point guard isn't going to help this team. If you could find a great movement shooter, that'll help this team. Shooting translates pretty well. If you could get me a rim protector to fill in that Goga Batadze role, I'd go for that. But again, like with rookies, you want simplicity. You want something simple. You want to give Tristan da Silva some room to grow. If you're keeping Jett Howard, you want to give him some room to grow. And maybe decisions are being made on Anthony Black. If not, you still need to give him some runway. Again, he's struggled this year. He's had some moments. He struggled. I think there's a really big decision coming with Anthony Black. But this isn't a great draft class in the middle. It's very top heavy. And so there are guys to find. I'm not sitting here saying there isn't, but I'm not super excited about who the Magic might be picking from, and I'm skeptical about what they should do with this draft. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the Philip Studio podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. I do updates on everything there. I get your shoot-around report. I write a fresh article only for my Patreon subscribers on, unless there's like some crazy big news, on my Patreon page. I do my 3 takeaways every afternoon after games. You can check that out again on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Hopefully I'll be doing a video review on Paolo here pretty soon. Got the quotes all lined up, got everything lined up. I just got to pick the clips, sit down, record it, all that stuff. So I'll probably get to that next week when the Magic have a little time off between games. So you have that to look forward to. As if all that's not enough, you can check out the Locked On Magic daily newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, we'll recap the Magic's game against the Chicago Bulls as the Magic close this 7-game homestand, a disappointing 7-game homestand. We'll talk about what the Magic did against the Bulls tomorrow. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.